I wasn't gonna make a video about this, but now I feel like I have to. Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie and today we are talking about Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. Sorry my library put the sticker right over the title. Sorry about that. Libraries, gotta love them, but like, come on now. But yes, this is Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. And here's the thing. I had no intention to do a review for this book. I didn't have plans. I didn't even really know I was gonna read it. I picked this up completely on a whim, but now I have to talk about it. So for those of you coming to my channel for the first time, let me give a quick kind of background as to why I have the opinions I have on this book. You'll understand what I mean in a minute. But first I want to say, I feel like I completely picked this up on a whim. I did put a hold on it for my library months ago when I found out that it was going to be released. I am not a person who likes contemporary thrillers, so why I decided to pick this up, I'm not really sure, other than I was hoping for kind of just a escapist thriller set on the beach. It's set in the 80s, or 80s, 90s. So I was definitely just looking for just a fun time just to read at the end of summer. And this did sound fun. I'm obsessed with the cover, which had a lot to do with it, to be honest. But I really didn't have it on my radar. It was very much just a decision to put it on hold in the library. It came in and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. Again, I'm not a contemporary thriller reader. It's not my favorite genre. So I did not have any expectations for this book whatsoever. And in fact, right when I was about to start reading it, I actually stumbled upon some early reviews of it, and some people did not like it at all. So I really did not have any expectations. I expected this to be not something I would enjoy, in fact, or I was at least going into it thinking this book is not really for me. I'm not the target audience of this book. So if I just have a passably enjoyable time with it, I'll count it as a win, because I really didn't anticipate much from it. But then when I started reading it, I was like, wait a minute. Wait, this is kind of different. So what exactly is Looking Glass Sound? I think it might be helpful to start off with saying what it is not, okay? This is where I think that people who are going to be trying to read this book or wondering if it's going to be something that they might like, I think that the marketing for this book is pretty misleading. I thought it was a thriller. If you look at some of the blurbs, it says it's kind of like a thriller horror type thing. It says it's spooky, and here's the thing. It's none of those things. It is definitely not horror. It's barely even thriller, really. I mean, it's there's some dark aspects to the book, but it is not tense in any way, really. It is not kind of an in-the-moment suspenseful adventure. It is not a high-octane thriller. In fact, this thing is slow burn, which I realized very early on, and that's when I started to be like, this is kind of different than what I was expecting. So just right off the bat, if you are expecting a kind of silly, campy, 80s inspired horror film in book form, it is not going to be that. I would categorize this closer to the literary thriller, literary mystery genre. I'm hesitant to even say the word thriller at all, because I cannot stress enough how not suspenseful this book is. This is very much a kind of emotional, introspective, slow burn story. So what is the story about? The story is about primarily three young friends, they're teenagers at the time, who are enjoying a summer in Whistler Bay, which is a really quaint seaside town, when they discover that their town is being somewhat terrorized by a killer. and the three friends discover something, and this discovery ends up changing their life. But really, the plot is far, far, far more intricate than that, and I really don't want to say too much because this is a completely spoiler-free review, but I will give a couple categories that this would fit in. If you don't want to know anything more, I will just say that, like I've already said, it's not a high-octane thriller. It is very much more, it's a literary-focused story. It's a slow burn, and I did have a good time with it, but it's just not going to be in the thriller category that you might expect. Now, I'm going to give a couple other categories that I don't really think are spoilers, because I think it's not the book's fault that it was marketed like a different way than what it actually is. In fact, I think that like hearing some of these categories might help readers to determine if it's actually something they want to read, because it's pretty long, and considering the pace, I think it might help if people know going in what it is. So this book is primarily a piece of meta fiction, which is one of my favorite things to read. So immediately once I started noticing what was going on, I was very intrigued. It's meta fiction. It's very much told in layers. The back of the blurb calls this a nesting doll novel, and I definitely agree with that. It definitely has elements of a nesting doll structure, which is pretty unique, but always something that I really love. This is a largely character-focused story with very little to do with the actual kind of thriller horror aspects of it. Those are really just playing in the background of a character-forward story. And so I think that typical thriller readers might not love that aspect of it. But me, I am a literary fiction reader. So imagine my surprise when I walked into this expecting a campy, silly thriller novel, and it turned out to be an intricately layered literary novel. I really couldn't believe my surprise. And to be honest, the entire time I was reading this, I was expecting it to get bad, actually, because I'd seen reviews calling this convoluted and difficult to follow. And I just couldn't disagree more. It is a little bit, I wouldn't say convoluted, but like when there are so many layers as there are in this book, inevitably, it might kind of dip into some like somewhat silly territory. But for the most part, I actually think it was done really well. Like if you tried to write out the plot of this novel on paper, you would really struggle. And the fact that Catriona Ward was able to do this type of story, and I was never lost, to be honest. I felt like she did it so well. It was so, genuinely well constructed that I'd never had a time where I was lost. Of course, by design, there's going to be moments where you're not going to be super grounded in like where you are in the story. And that's, again, like by design. Like there's going to be points in the book, and I think that literary fiction readers will be more accustomed to this than maybe other different readers of different genres, because literary fiction does this a lot, where you're moving forward and backwards in time, you're moving around in perspective and stuff like that, and it's kind of like this mosaic that you're getting all these different images from different places, and eventually like you're exposed to the whole story. Again, something that I really like as a literary reader, so I did not have any problem with this. I did not find it hard to understand. I actually felt like Catriona Ward really walked us through a quite intricate process, and it was handled really well. That being said though, like while I was very impressed with the writing and just the overall construction of the book, because it's complicated, I'm not gonna lie, but not difficult to understand, which I enjoyed. However, I don't know that the story itself, like what it was talking about, was the most like exciting thing. I was never bored. I actually think the pacing kept it to the point where I was like continually invested in what was going on. But that being said, it's certainly not like the most exciting thing ever. Again, I think that's gonna be a problem for certain kinds of readers that might look at this thinking it's gonna be, you know, in a contemporary thriller genre. But I just wanted to really talk about this book because I think that it probably wasn't marketed to the right audience. And I was very pleasantly surprised picking it up because I think that I am the kind of reader that this was made for. Like, I, as a literary reader and as someone who really enjoys playing with structure, and I'm, you know, I like the thriller, spooky elements to it, but that's not what I'm there for all the time. Like, I'm really there for a good story or just a fun literary experiment, which is what I think this is mostly doing. So I think that I was like the perfect reader for this book. But that being said, like, a lot of people are not gonna like this. This is not gonna be for everyone because it is so slow burn. And there is so much going on where you're like, why would these, you know, what is this? What am I reading? And there are times when you're like, where is this going? Like, what is the point? Again, I think that like literary readers are very used to that because that's, I mean, a lot of the books in that genre do that. But it might be frustrating for people who are more plot focused. I want to be honest, like, I want to give this a very objective review because I did enjoy this. I would probably give it in between 3.5 and 4 stars, like somewhere in there. But I can absolutely see how a lot of people would not deal with this at all. I think I was more patient than I tend to be. I tend to not like overly drawn out stories. And this is, at times I would maybe even say tedious, but I enjoyed it. But like, I can see how this would really get on some people's nerves. So I just want, you know, I want people to be aware that when they look at this book, they might think it's one thing and then not really realize what it's going to be, for better or for worse. I was pleasantly surprised, but I can also see people being pretty frustrated. But overall, I mean, I was so impressed with the writing. The story did engage me. I wish that there would have been a couple more exciting elements, but I think that like the reveals were really clever. I think it all made a lot of sense. I thought the writing was strong, and I think that this is something that could even get better on a reread because what she's doing in here has it's so clever sometimes, and I love that. I absolutely love when a story makes me think, like, it is that perfect thing where when you get to the end of the book, it kind of recontextualizes everything that came before it, and that is absolutely perfect in my opinion. Like, that is what books should do, especially if you're working through some sort of like a writing experiment like this is. I think there's a lot of things that this could be compared to. If you like metafiction, if you like kind of the deconstruction and construction of stories in general, if you like things with a lot of different perspectives, anything in there, and I think you're really gonna like this. If you're looking for something that's fast-paced, plot-focused, this is probably not gonna be the story for you, but either way, I just wanted to talk about this book because it was completely just on a whim that I decided to read this, and it ended up being really fun for me, and I do think that it's somewhat mismarketed, and considering that this just came out, this was released on August 8th, 2023, and I'm currently recording this on August 23rd, so it has only been out for a couple weeks, and I think that like it is really a good time to get this out there to be like, okay, what actually is this story? Maybe it'll get into more readers that would enjoy it. Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. I had a great time with it, and I hope that this video will help you to decide whether or not this is something you want to pick up. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jamie. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!